Today's guest, Jackson Hightower, is the founder of Natural Jax, one of the fastest growing movements in man's sexual health and performance. In just 2.5 years, his content has reached 1.2 million followers worldwide and racked up more than 280 million lifetime views, making him one of the most trusted voices in the space. Jackson's mission is simple, but yet powerful: to elevate the world through sex education, help people build confidence, and uplevel performance. His approach blends science, ancient practices, and raw real-world experience, giving men practical tools to reclaim their energy, master their sexuality, and step fully into their power. We're talking how to level up your bedroom performance, man-to-women dynamics, and how to reignite your relationship or marriage. And also some of the taboo topics like how to last longer, how to make her crave you, and be the only man she desires. Jackson, the first time we met, I was coming up to you with an ask for help to help me improve my bedroom performance, because earlier I came across your page, I came across your content, was very valuable. And then I was like, okay, I need to talk to that guy. And it was nothing short of transformative, I would say. We can maybe get into that in a little bit, but for those who don't know you, what is your mission?
Wow. My mission is to, I would say, clear all the dead bedrooms in the world. And when I say that, I mean, let's just get sex education out to the world, right? In the way that we've never had it. And through that, you can clear out all the dead bedrooms. But there's an epidemic going on in society right now. There's a massive orgasm inequality between heterosexual women and heterosexual men. Men are addicted to porn. They have ED in droves and droves and higher numbers all the time. They're addicted to pharmaceuticals at earlier and earlier ages. So like my goal is like, hey, there's another way. Let's think about what we're doing. Let's actually take some action and create some discipline around it, but also the education piece, and to make it
Awesome.
fun. Like it's supposed to be fun, right? Like, yes, these problems are real and I've experienced all of them. And then also, we can work through them and you can change, but like, let's keep it fun and light and not like super serious and very esoteric. That's my goal, is to be as relatable as possible so I can reach as many people as possible.
We're going to make sure we're going to create like a masterclass out of this, going layer by layer and pointing out the blind spots, how to fix them, and then reap the benefits from that. So let's start right at the top there. Let's say in this hypothetical scenario, I'm a man, 45, married since 15 years, 2 kids, stable job, but like the fire, the spiciness, things are not as they used to be. Where can I start to move things back into a more polarizing direction?
Great question. You can start by moving things into a more polarizing direction by changing your attitude, your energy, your behaviors, and your actions. So the only thing that's going to change the relationship in terms of polarity with you and your wife is if you change, right? Expecting her to do different things, that's not how it works. Women generally lead in the relationship. They lead the masculine container, the masculine guide. My guess is that a lot of men in those situations are A, complacent, B, are not creating dopamine and new experiences with their partners, C, are under a tremendous amount of stress. They've got kids, they have bad sleep schedules, they, sleeping in the same bed, maybe they don't, get the rest that they need. They have stressful jobs, they're trying to create and provide for the family. The dynamic shifts, right? But as you get further and further into your relationships, you have to work harder at them. Right? You have to initiate. You have to continue dating your partner. You have to do things that are new, that are novel. That means going on interesting experiences, going on different dates, creating different opportunities for you to connect with each other and deepen that bond, right? If we get complacent, there's no dopamine, there's no polarity, right? So it's really, it's the relationship as it gets on, it's very easy to be like, I won't just do that. Like, I have an opportunity to go down on her in the morning. Nah, I don't really feel like it. I'm kind of lazy. We get into that mode, and that's the mode that's going to be the killer of all the intimacy, right?
You said something very interesting that clicked right away. You have to continue dating your partner.
Yeah. Set up date nights that are planned, right? You have kids. There's a lot going on. I get it. but it may not seem sexy, but like set up date nights, set up sex time. It doesn't matter what it is because you'll both have anticipation for it, right? A hack that I love that's really helpful is using iMessage for all of your logistical conversations and using WhatsApp or some other message program for your sexy conversations, your flirtations, and you don't mix the two, right? Picking up the kids from school, the fucking dishwasher's broken, blah, 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 all this stuff. That's nonsense. That's not sexy, right? You and your wife are in a business partnership, right? You'd have a lot of conversations that are not sexy. Where do you take the conversations that are sexy? You create a different channel. Maybe it's just through email. Maybe you write things. Maybe it's through voice notes because women are auditory and they love hearing different things. You have to continue stroking your partner's love languages, but you have to find maybe different channels to do it so that there's some nice separation so that they can say, when I open my WhatsApp, I know that I'm getting a message that's in this vein from my partner, right? And they're already excited. There's a bit of anticipation for it, right? So those are things that you can do, but you have to hack it. You have to hack the system. Set up calendar reminders, email reminders, whatever it is. We have all this technology nowadays. But to create those touch points, those moments with your partners, that she feels that you adore her, that you care for her, that you're still infatuated by her, that you're still turned on by her, right? Physically, that's an important one. As women age, like that's the thing that they fear is that, my partner's going to leave me for a younger woman because, men age differently than women do. And there's, that all that sort of stuff happens. So I would say like you got to work at it, just like you got to work at keeping your body in shape as you get older, and you employ different tactics and tips and tricks, right? And tools. It's the same thing with your relationship. Staycations, leveraging babysitters, whatever it is that you have to do, but make time.
You said a nice keyword there regarding the love languages, and I feel like in my relationship, it has also made, once I understood what it is and what it does, it helped so much to like understand, because everybody thinks like us. And then we found out the love language and we're like, oh, okay, like you value maybe like a different type of love language. So for anybody that doesn't know their love language yet, go online. You can do a free test. You just type it in the 4 love languages or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, there's 5. Yeah, they're they're very simple.
5.
Yeah.
5, exactly. Maybe you want to share quickly, what are the 5 love languages?
Yeah. So physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, and gifts. And so every person receives love a certain way and usually naturally gives love a certain way. So the goal is to figure out, what is your partner's love language? Does your partner need words? Do they need acts? Do they need physical touch? Everyone's different. And just because you like to give physical touch doesn't mean that she's necessarily going to feel love by you giving physical touch. So you have to understand that, yes, we are different, right? Men and women operate very differently and our love languages can be different. I usually find that partners that have usually there's 2 love languages that are dominant for how we give and receive. If both partners are not aligned in those first 2, that's challenging, right? A guy who wants physical touch, but a woman who doesn't give physical touch, like that's going to be challenging for him to be like, why doesn't she touch me? Right? So I like to get all this stuff out right at the beginning when I meet someone. But if you're in a partnership with someone for a long period of time, what are those love languages, and continue to touch them. If it's physical touch, come up behind her in the kitchen, like give her, a squeeze in the hips, like make sure that she feels you, right? If it's acts of service, sending, a car service for, whatever it is, whatever people you need to do, but activate what those things are. Because if you don't, the other partner, no matter what you do, no matter how you feel, is not going to feel themselves that you have that love for them, right? It's a very interesting thing.
Now I can imagine some men will come up with the thought, the belief, saying, yeah, she just never initiates anymore, so why should I? Whose responsibility is it?
The man. The man is always responsible for creating the environment in the container so that the woman can feel sexy or playful or whatever enough to initiate. But the reality is, it's the man's job to initiate. And if the woman rejects, he needs to continue. He needs to continue. He needs to continue. He needs to find another time, another opportunity, and not take it personally, because it's never really about him. It's about what's going on with her, right? Men are, and again, this goes back to the point we made before, men and women are different. They are wired differently. We are visual stimuli creatures. We see something, we get turned on, we go for it. That's not how women are. So if you take the approach that your female partner, even if you've been married to her for a long time, she needs to feel like she's being seduced. She needs to have the foreplay, the non-physical and the physical, included. She needs to have those touch points. She needs to get those messages to her that makes her feel loved. All that stuff needs to continue regularly. And she may be going through a period where in her hormonal cycle where she's just not into it, or the kids may be screaming, or she has a baby and her biological fight or flight, response kicks in, and she's not concerned about giving you oral sex. She's concerned about taking care of her child because there's the biological need to take care of her child. So men, we often get sensitive when we're rejected. And we've all been there. I've been there, you've been there, I'm sure, right? But the point is, you cannot take it personally because it is not about you. It is about how she is in that moment. And have you done the things to cultivate that path for her to level up into her turn on in those moments? And if the answer is no, you just keep at it, right? It's like a guy who has a sales job. You hang down at the phone and you pick up another, it's just the same client that you're calling again and again and again, right?
Exactly. Now, what I also feel like observe, and this has I see that with the background of having traveled so many different countries, seeing so many different cultures. And I do feel a little bit like in Western countries that this dynamic between masculine energy, feminine energy is sometimes more than not neutralized, you maybe want to say, especially maybe if you have been in a longer relationship. Now, if it would be in my case, let's say I want to figure out my love language, I want to figure out my partner's love language, but what would be a first step that I can do today with my partner that is relatively quote unquote easy to do, that will spark up that dynamic again, freshen it up, and lead the way to a dynamic 2.0, so to say?
Yeah. The first thing a man needs to do in order to create that change is change his attitude and his approach internally to what he's doing. That's the first thing, right? So you have to take a different frame of reference of what it is that you're doing. You have to find something to do that's going to elicit a positive response in her. Usually it revolves around something that could be a surprise or something that she's not expecting that may tick one of the boxes of her love languages. And lead with confidence and just try something new. Like, hey, we're going to do this. Put on this dress. I got a babysitter. Don't sweat. I got you an Uber. Meet me here, or I'm going to pick you up at this time. Something that brings you back into those days when you were dating and everything that you did mattered. Because when we get into 15 years of relationship, things seem to matter less, but make it matter, right? Take her on a first date again, whatever that looks like for you and your partner. That's what I would say, is take her on a first date again and just go from there and start building from that moment. And that's really all you can do, is change the energy that you have around it and understand that you are the only person that is responsible for the shift in that polarity. Because when you shift and you create openings for her to see you in those moments and to follow you and to lead, and for you to lead, ultimately, unless you're in a failing marriage, ultimately she's going to at some point follow that role because she's with you. She wants to be with you, right? That's why she's there. That's what I would say, is take her out on a first date again, and then pretend like you're starting all over, right? Every date should be a first date. Every day should be Valentine's Day. If you think about your relationship that way, that's the level of importance that it should have. But we just get complacent. We get in the rut. We get in the routine, and the neural pathways are they're so trodden, right? And that we need to build new ones with dopamine, with novelty. So do something that creates novelty with her.
I'm curious to hear your take on that. Some of my clients, when they start to improve their body, their confidence naturally then too, testosterone levels maybe get back into a little bit of a healthier range, and their dynamic, like they themselves as a man level up a little bit. I've heard it over and over again that their woman starts to pull back. Why do you think that is?
They feel jealous. They feel like the man is going to potentially leave them for another woman who's younger, who's prettier, who's tighter, who's firmer, who hasn't had 2 kids. It's totally natural. And what I would say to a man in that situation is engage her. right? Engage her in those activities, include her, invite her. And if you don't want to work out with her, pay for her Pilates classes. Make sure that she's going. Whatever it is that's going to allow her to feel like you're on the same team, right? And that you're engaged in the same way. I think that's the most important part. Um, and anything outside of that, if you're kind of like doing your thing and you're feeling all sexy and you're into yourself and you're feeling yourself, she's gonna be like, ick, like he's leaving me behind, right? And if she doesn't have the wherewithal to take care of herself and all that stuff on her own end, that's fine. But if you want to, continue being with her, you know, just invite her and don't create that like me versus you or I'm getting fit and you're not. Like, let's do it together, right? Let's communicate about this. Like, if I'm getting my blood levels tested, you get your blood levels tested. If I'm working with a hormone doctor, you work with a hormone doctor. Because the same thing happens to men and women. Men generally, I think find it or easier to go into to see doctors and handle all that stuff. Women's hormones are much more complex. But as long as you make it a team thing, I think you remove a lot of that.
Is there something that I could tell my wife that would make the process a little bit easier, or should it only be through the actions that I do?
The process of allowing her to see that like this is important to you.
Yeah, because like we're in the process of like reinitiating. Maybe me as the man, I try to like work on myself, and I'm also in the process. But like before that, obviously, also the relationship just happened. But I want to bring things back. I want to bring back freshness. I want to bring back dynamic again. Is there something that I could tell her, ask her, or should everything just be quote unquote through the actions that I do?
Well, it needs to be both, but it's also through the way that she receives information. And I would always say like being inclusive as opposed to I'm going to do my own thing, like you do your thing, and then we'll see where we go, is always better, than the alternative, right? So like your actions are, hey, like I want to get in shape. I want to join a gym. Do you want to join the gym too? Right? Or like, what are things that we could do? Or, hey, I'm really concerned about my health. I want to be healthy as I get older for our family. Like, should we get tests together? I think it's more about allowing her. Women are communal. They want to feel like they're part of a team, right? And so if a guy's off doing his thing and she's sitting back like, oh my God, he's getting fit. Like, is he looking at younger girls? Like, who's at the gym? What's happening? She just is going to run a story, right? So it's about, hey, I'm doing this. I want you to do it with me. Or let's find something for you to do and let's level up together, right? I think that's important. If there's no desire for the other partner to level up, that's harder, That's a harder scenario, but that does happen, But I think the inclusivity piece will sort of limit a lot of that negative like pullback if it's inclusive, right? If it's like, hey, let's do this together. It's all about communication. All the clients I work with, all the guys that I'm speaking to on socials and women on socials, there's so much that we can work through if we communicate like our truth with our partners, right? With everyone, and there's so many things that we hide and we have shame and fear and guilt. And it's just like we got to level up our communication skills and not fear what may happen as a result, right? Like a guy's like, hey, I want to get fit. Like I look like I have a dad bod. I'm not happy with myself, and like, and being vulnerable and sharing that with his partner, she will probably be like, wow, I kind of have like a mom bod. I had 2 kids. Like, what are we going to do? Right. Creating that environment of like together, right. As opposed to like this, like me versus you, I think is key.
Yeah, it's an interesting point because I think a lot of the time, men and women probably keep a lot of their thoughts for themselves, and that creates like even more distance, although both they're looking for the solution, but kind of like shutting up about it and like, oh, I need to figure this out by myself, kind of like maybe creates that bigger gap more and more.
1,000%.
Sweet. Okay. So I took my wife on a first date again. We had a blast. She's still not 100% sure what this was all about. Maybe she thinks I have a little bit of a motive. How can I initiate again without seeming to be begging?
That's just in the way that a man approaches. If he leads with confidence and clarity and that he knows what he's doing and he's very clear on his path forward, it won't feel like begging. Also, going into that scenario, understanding that he may not get what he wants and he needs to try again and potentially again and again, right? To enliven that spark and to try different things, right? It's like whack-a-mole. Well, today it's going to be acts of service, and then it's going to be words of affirmation, and then it's going to be, we go on a date night. But if the man has the energy of begging, it's going to reek of begging. And like, you can't have that. So you need to act as if you don't need a thing, but you're doing this because you care, because you actually do, right? It needs to be genuine and authentic.
Is there something that you've seen, because I guess you also work with a lot of couples, men in that situation. Is there some sort of like, let's say, meat and potatoes type of framework or approach that you can share that has worked for a lot of men? Because I can imagine also like a lot of men maybe in that situation, they maybe lost the clear sight and they don't know, like, is that now begging or am I now leading, or, like a little bit lost in the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
If there's just like a framework that you can maybe share, that generally seems to work quite well to initiate.
Yeah. The first is, men are generally like sort of routinized creatures. We love systems and things like that. So the first part of it is, what are we going to do? And like, is it going to be awesome? Right? A lot of guys get stuck in like, I don't know what to do with her. At the end of the day, it doesn't actually matter. So picking a day, setting a plan, irrespective of how it may go, that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to pick the date, set the plan, and let her know what's going on, what to wear, and what time to be ready. That's the first thing, right? So like, again, back to dating 101. The next part of it is, you know, asking questions, having the curiosity, right? Like doing something that's fun that you've never done before is important. That's novelty. Novelty creates dopamine. Dopamine is the thing that we are seeking in peak levels of arousal, right? And not to get into porn, but like when you watch porn, like your dopamine spikes a lot. When you have a new experience with your partner, your dopamine spikes, right? That level, that those feel good hormones come in. So you do that first part, you do the second part. She might be asking you a bunch of questions, and just ignore it. Just like, this is what we're doing, right? Like, we're going on a date. Let's have fun. Let's enjoy. Let's have a good time together. There is no motive. And then, based on your relationship, you got to read the situation, right? Where are you going afterwards? What's happening? Are you in a situation that is, where your kids are around? Are you in a situation where, maybe you have a hotel for the night or something like that, right? Like, there's things that you can do that create like a level of like, oh, this is fun. And then from there, you lead confidently. And if it's your wife and like, the way that she likes to be touched or, connected with, you engage in that behavior and you see what happens. But you don't go for it right away. And you also like need to know that it may not happen right away. It's your responsibility to continue to, um, I'll use like to lubricate the engines, right? Like you have to, get the touch points over and over and over again until she gets into a point where she's like, okay, I'm ready to get into this again. And it depends how long it's been stale, right? If it's been stale for a number of years, it may take you a while, right? Just like you've been addicted to corn for a really long time and you have, porn-induced erectile dysfunction, it may take you a while to like get back onto your horse again where you can get, full steam. So less pressure on yourself, no pedestalizing her, leading with confidence, not needing the thing, but knowing that like if you continue to change your energy and your frequency around it, hopefully it will come. And obviously if you exhaust all of your options and you do this for long periods of time and it's not working, then you got to look at the structure of the relationship. Then there's something else that's happening. But if a woman is with you, generally speaking, like, you should be able to create that turn on again.
Maybe to touch quickly on the point of corn. You told me in our consultation, I remember, just look, whatever you're doing, just don't watch it at all. And I've been adherent ever since, never touched it again. And
Good.
I think it
That's
does.
amazing.
It does quite a lot.
That's
Yeah,
been like 3 months or 4 months. Good for
So,
you.
of course, if somebody who I respect and listen to in an expertise tells me, do this, I'll just do it. No questions,
You're
right?
great. We need more people like you.
Never done it ever since. And I think it's from a dynamic standpoint and performance standpoint, it definitely has shown. It's always difficult to say because you don't have like a comparison group or like, like different test subjects. But I have to say, I don't miss it. I don't, I think, or I feel it does me good. And,
That's awesome, Robin.
but I just want to maybe bring back to the point because I can imagine one or the other man that has been longer in a relationship, if he doesn't get his dopamine from the relationship anymore, he gets it from the websites, right? What message do you have to these men?
If you are a man that cannot, for some reason, you aren't engaging with your partner and you need some sort of release, what I would say is this. I want you to understand the relationship between dopamine and neural demand. And what that means is this. I have a scale and like a PDF and a graph that basically shows men, this is the type of content that you can watch. This is the amount of dopamine that you will get from watching that content from high to low. This is the amount of neural demand that is required of your brain to be stimulated during that experience. And what you'll find is that VR corn, AR corn, video corn, hardcore corn, all of the corns that you can watch with your eyes, they have the highest dopamine spike out of any other stimulus, and they have the least neural demand, which means that your brain doesn't have to work at all to envision the scenario that you are in. It means you get the video and you just watch it and you're just glued to it, right? And the dopamine goes super high and then you release and it drops and whatnot. The point I'm trying to make is that if you need to watch something, don't watch that. Get into the lower levels of dopamine and the higher levels of neural demand. And what that means is videos that are on TikTok, all these platforms. You can look at things that turn you on, but they're just not hardcore corn, right? You can look at women that are wearing whatever it is. There's so much stuff out there these days, right? But I implore you, continually reduce the type of content that you're watching into lower dopamine and higher neural demand. I'll give men an example of what is the lowest dopamine and the highest neural demand. It's imagination. It's reading a book. It's auditory, like listening to an erotic novel. It's looking at a static image. Remember Playboy back in the 50s? Like that was a static image. Think about what you have to do in your brain to get turned on by that. You have to create a scenario. That creates neural demand, right? Neural demand is important because your dopamine levels may not go that high, but your brain is working, right? And the reason why I'm sharing this is because so many times people who are addicted to the highest levels of video corn, they get erectile dysfunction in real life. And, they get ED in real life. And that's because there is such a gap between the dopamine that's produced during their human to human experience and the dopamine that's produced during their corn experience when they're watching it. There's a huge delta. That delta is really bad. So what we want to say is like, look, if you're not getting it from your wife, try harder. If that doesn't work and you need to do something else, don't use the hubs. Use other forms of social media to wean off of that massive dopamine kick. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, I have the chart, but like that's, yeah.
Yeah. We can maybe attach that in the show notes then for somebody if they want to look into that. You maybe have a little bit of a better insight into that. Like how many men, roughly percentage wise, suffer from corn-induced ED?
I would say 30% minimum. Yeah.
Because I can imagine it's like a sensitive topic that nobody really like wants to talk about it. And I mean, like all sorts of like cascades, even not the man with their man friends, because it's like embarrassing to some degree. And especially not with your partner, because then it's like you maybe they each other like you don't talk, they brush it off as like, oh, he doesn't like me anymore. I'm like I got out of shape. I'm maybe not attractive to him. But it's like this whole like kind of
Oh, it's
matrix.
nasty. It's nasty. It's not only that, it's a lack of communication, it's the depression that comes with it, but then it stems into the pharmaceutical realm because they have ED, but like they don't actually have ED, but like they think that they do because they're addicted. And then they start getting into the Viagra's, the Blue Chews, the this and that. And they're in their 20s, right? This has never been a feature of society before. This is new, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a massive issue, and I think that no one talks about it. I hear about it a lot because my channels are open for that type of conversation, right? I invite guys who are all around the world, right? And they are, sharing and letting me know what's going on. First question is as asked, like, do you watch porn? Okay, yes. How many times per day? Okay, 4. Okay, you need to stop, man. Like you need to stop. By the way, 4 is like average. And I'm like, how do you have enough time to do that? So I always encourage guys. I'm like, it's gonna lead to negative effects, and they don't understand it. It's like doing heroin for your brain. It's the same effect, essentially, right? And they're like, oh no, it's just a little bit of corn. It's just not. It's nasty. It is a nasty drug. And it's rampant. 17 out of the top 100 search websites or hubs, I think 1/3 of every download on the internet is some sort of pornographic material. I mean, it's a massive, massive issue, and it's so easy to get. It's so easy to come across. And so I just say, like, cold turkey. And if you can't do cold turkey, like, get on that scale of weaning down on the types of content that you're watching, so that you can use more of your imagination, so you don't have that big gap when you're with a partner. Because that's all it is. It's just like my dopamine isn't getting spiked as much from this human that I'm with, because I'm used to watching this VR corn with this type of individual in it. And that gets me going, right? And it's all about training those neural pathways. Your brain is like, I need that in order to get high dopamine. I need this image, this particular person, this type of scenario, and they get entrained in that, right? And then when they're
Mm-hmm.
with a real person, it's never quite as intense. It's never
Mm-hmm.
quite as dopamine producing, right? It's just a normal experience of the human, which by the way can be really hot, but the VR nature. I mean, you've seen this stuff, like it's nasty, and they just keep feeding it. So that's kind of what I would say.
Yeah, that makes total sense because it kind of like brings your internal benchmark to like a very high level of sexual visual stimulation that whatever you're going to initiate with your partner is like light years away initially.
Yeah.
But I I've never seen the VR thing, but with the era that we're in right now, and like obviously it's still a topic that you hear and there, which I hopefully not think that it's going to affect the majority of the population, but AI, anything that goes into that, like if it's like then the actual like robots and you could call it like AI slaves, or whatever they're going to be, girlfriends, wives, if it's virtual, if it's physical.
Yeah.
Um, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, all these movies that we've seen in the last 10 or 15 years, they're all going to come true. It's going to be like an Escape from LA scenario. We've got people living under the streets, and you've got all the AI above the streets. And, it's funny. I once saw the movie with Sylvester Stallone and Sandra Bullock. And they're in this futuristic world, and they're in different places, but they plug into this computer, and then they have sex with each other through this. I have to find the name of the movie. It's on top of my head, but like, I think I saw that when I was like 11 or some in my teens. And I was like, that's terrible. Why would anyone want that? Like, why does someone want to plug into a computer to like have a sexual experience? But like, that's where we're going, my whole platform is like, let's get back to like human to touch, human connection, human experience, like skin to skin, right? Like, let's feel each other, let's communicate with each other. Maybe it's an uphill battle, but like, it's one I'm willing to fight till the end.
Sweet. Okay. So let's say I took my wife now on a first date again. We had a great time. It was initially maybe a little bit awkward because she didn't know what it was about, but we had a great time. We have a spark. We were laughing. We were talking about the good old days. And I'm like slightly making my move to initiate things. She's playing a little bit along. How does your bedroom one-on-one with initiation go that you can make the best experience and make her feel full, like she can fully submerge in the experience?
Yeah. In order to create an optimal experience for her, there needs to be a level of trust, a level of safety, a level of surrender, and all of that. So it's not about the moves and the specifics. Like what I always say, it's about the container. It's about the structure, right? If you are able to create the structure and lead confidently into that structure, into that container that you've created, you're going to be light years ahead of, trying to do this move or that move. That's not that relevant, right? She needs to feel you. She needs to feel your presence. She needs to feel your authenticity. She needs to feel that it's not just, this date wasn't just to like, get a whatever, right? From her. Like, she needs to feel that like you're playing the long game and that you don't necessarily care that that may or may not happen, but that you're leading her confidently, that your touch with her body is confident. It's not this like weakness, right? Like, you want to hold her, be physical. And obviously taking into account all of the situations you've had in the past and things that have worked well with that partner, right? Utilize that, utilize those moments, those things that you know that she likes, whether it's like whispering into her ear with like a hair pull, right? Those are all very specific to your partnership of what she likes. The only thing that really matters is that she feels your presence and she feels that you're there genuinely. And like, there is no ultimatum, there is no motive. And, that she feels you, right? And like, men know when they're being authentic and they know when they're being full of shit. So I would just say, like, look, like, be you, right? Lead confidently, guide and direct the experience with her, be firm, like with what, with the way that you communicate with her, in the sense that like, not asking questions, but like, do this and then see, because if she's in that moment, she'll respond in kind, to that guidance that you're providing through language, through verbal tone, through confidence, through body language, through physicality, all the things that make us men, right? And that's how we lead.
Now I'm initiating. I'm trying to get the container. Let's start with foreplay. What do most men get wrong about foreplay?
They go way too fast. What most men get wrong about foreplay is that they go way too fast. Again, men and women are different. We see something, we get turned on. It's an immediate reaction. We are fire. With women, they're like a pot of water. And depending on how stale it's been, it could be a really big pot of water, right? It could be a tiny little saucepan if you're like really doing all the things, but it could be a big pot. So you have to understand that women's bodies, generally speaking, take 25 to 45 minutes of like building up that pace. And that's kissing, that's hair pulling, that's rubbing, that's tickling, that's connecting, that's whispering, that's all of the erogenous zones that are outside of her kitty, right? It's neck bone, it's collarbone. Literally, I teach this in my program. I call it the 3-key method. The first key is the mouth. The second key are the cherries. The third key is the kitty, right? So, they're unlocking doors to her pleasure and to her arousal, right? If you go right to number 3, no, sorry, doesn't always work that way, right? There's dryness, she's not turned on, she doesn't feel like she's ready. Like, if you do those things, the vast majority of the time, you're going to be in a much better situation than if you didn't. Saliva is important. Kissing is important. It's funny. I talk to a lot of older couples and like, do they still kiss, right? Kissing is incredibly important from the perspective of creating saliva, pheromones. The frenulum that's on the inside of the mouth is connected to the kitty. You have a frenulum in your kitty, and you have a frenulum in your eggplant. So those are important. That stimulates the vagus nerve, which connects down to your privates. Similarly, like a woman's, cherries, like she can get turned on, but she can have an orgasm just from touching them the right way. right? So pay attention to them, go slow, like, and then working your way down and then going back up again and going down, creating anticipation. But if you just go right for it, unless she's just begging for it and she's ovulating and she's ready and it's super wet, like, just take your time, right? Because that buildup is also a turn on for her, you know? But you got to read the room, right? If it's like hot and heavy and it's super intense and she's feeling you, like, okay, go for it. She's your wife. It's fine, you know? But, don't, but that's the thing about foreplay is that it's always too fast. And the second thing I like to tell men is softer, softer and slower with your hands, with your mouth, with everything that you do. You're not in a college football locker room. Like, Kitty has 10,000 nerve endings. It is incredibly sensitive. 5 times slower than you normally would, and then 5 times slower than that. Like, that's literally what I share, right? And I think it's really helpful for a lot of guys to be like, "Oh, wait, interesting. So I need to just slow down." But it's hard for us to do that because we're excited, we're in the moment, we wanna do all the things, we wanna do all the moves that we, have seen. It's just about slowing it down.
I had at one point a very big aha moment when I was with my ex-girlfriend, and we also had the conversation about sexual dynamic, and we just had a conversation. And like you said, man think in systems. I think a lot in systems. I think in like pure logic and how it works. And in my mind, up until that point, even without realizing, I was like, yeah, foreplay is like whatever you do sexually that is not penetration, essentially, right?
Mhm.
Until she told me, she was like, yeah, but like to me, like kissing, if you're listening to me, if you're holding my hand, if you're holding my arm, if you're like showing care, that's like foreplay for me too. And I was like, oh,
Yeah. That's a huge aha moment, right? Because you're like, "Wait a minute, everything has the potential to be foreplay." Everything that you do, every action, every moment, every behavior, every touch, every stroke, everything that you're doing has the potential to be foreplay. And the more you can cultivate foreplay throughout the week, the day, whatever it is, that's going to keep your level of like, so you won't get stale, right? That's the whole point is you keep that level up. So you never get to that stale point.
hmm. And the analogy that you shared, I told you that earlier in our interactions. Like, it also made so much sense to me with the flame and the pot. Just so like I want to like re-emphasize this because this was such a huge learning to me. Men are like a flame. Like, you're a fire comes right away. You're getting hot right away. But that flame, once it goes under the women, she's not the pot. The water is not going to boil right away. It's going to take time. It's going to get lukewarm. It's going to get somewhat warm. Then it
Hmm.
maybe starts to get a little bit warmer and warmer and warmer. And just at one point, deeper into the process, it actually starts to boil. And then she's temperature ready. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And with your input, I can maybe share that is I've been able now to get to a point where I don't even try to like think about it or like, oh, I have to do this or I have to do that. It's just like naturally right now. And almost in every interaction, she's the one who's like now, like, don't make me wait longer. Like,
That's
and I'm not even
amazing.
trying to drag it out.
Yes.
I'm really not trying to
That's,
drag it out. I'm just like
yeah.
doing naturally what I think is appropriate. And then she's like, you know,
Yeah,
smash
that's
it.
beautiful, right? And it feels good because 'cause you're like, "Wow," but, you made a really interesting point, and, a lot of people ask me, like, "Well, what is this natural Jackson concept?" So, there's 2 parts of it. One is, like, natural living, right? Like, trying to keep away from pharma and all this sort of stuff and, like, being as natural as possible. The second part of it is natural. Like, how do you make he's a natural. Oh, he's this, like, naturally skilled at intimacy, at connecting sexually, right? You just said I practiced it and I was there and I was doing all these things, and it kind of comes naturally to me. That is the second point of the entire business model that I have is that how can we get more people, men, women, whatever it is, to be naturally more gifted in these areas because they learn, they get knowledge, and then they put them into practice. We just don't have the teaching tools, or we haven't had the appropriate teaching tools.
And that's why we're here today, because I found you. I've listened to your content. I had your consultation, and things have moved in a very confident direction, I would say.
I
Not
love
that it
that.
was bad beforehand, I want to say, but There's definitely like levels to this, you know,
Yeah.
like you say, like the black belt is earned. I wouldn't say I'm a black belt, but like I've made like I moved up a belt or two for
I
sure.
could see it. I could feel it.
Now, give me something spicy. If let's say I've been so long in this relationship that I maybe like forgot a little bit about like, you know, like what kind of spicy tricks can I pull off? We're still at the foreplay. What is a like I don't want to because I'm right now new to this thing again, like reinitiating. It's difficult for me to think and like do it at the same time because you're, you know, like it's what is a simple thing that I can default to or like try initially before I get that confidence back that I can do with my woman in the foreplay that she will enjoy.
Yeah. My default, my trick is a massage. It does a couple things. One, it regulates her nervous system. Two, it allows her to feel incredibly relaxed. Three, if you learn how to do it properly, you can really stimulate erogenous zones that um, you know you may not have been able to stimulate otherwise. So that's something where it just relaxes everybody in that moment, and then from there you can lead into more of a more, I guess, more R-rated experience. But that is something that I would say is that if a man knows how to give his woman a massage, whole body, using oil so that she feels relaxed, again, with no agenda other than to like make her feel good, right? What do you think that does to a partner, right? Getting her in that experience of like, wow, fully relaxed, breathing, central nervous system chill. We're in the um, we're in the right, what is it, parasympathetic, sympathetic. We're in the right nervous system, right, where we're relaxed, non-fight or flight. And then just from there, you can move into an experience. So I say, like, if you don't know what to do, try to do that. That's a good go-to.
It
Make
is.
sure you have some oil.
Now, I am down on her kitty. I think kitty was the word that we're using, right?
Yeah.
I'm down on her kitty. Where in general should I spend more time, whether it's with my hands, fingers, or orally? Is it on the outside? Is it on the inside? Is it at the top? Help me.
Yeah. This is great. I put together some animation videos that are in my app now that sort of go through this. So I always say, think of men are very direct. Women can mostly be indirect. When you touch a woman, the more indirectly you can touch her, the more sensitivity will be created, the more arousal, the more libido stimulation. So rather than going right for the kitty or the bean is the top of the kitty. Rather than going right for that, I focus on the areas around, right?
Mhm.
The exterior skin, the hip bones. Like there's a like interesting point in between the hip bone and the pubic bone. Um, that you can, either tickle, kiss, caress. The outside areas are most important, and then slowly go in. But again, it's not always about going right for the thing. You have to start outside and work your way in and spend time and explore and discover, whether it's with your fingers, whether it's this, going slower than you think, using more deft touch than you think. So that's what I that's what I generally recommend is it's a journey, right? It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So be playful, discover, enjoy, but go slow and go out to in, not in to out.
To give something very tactical, if somebody doesn't have the feeling you're at right now, how much time should someone spend apps, or let's say a minimum time? Because yes, it depends on the woman when she's ready, but how much time does someone should spend without penetration before going for it, roughly?
On average, I would say like 30 minutes is a good number. So that's
That
kissing.
okay.
Yeah. I would say average 30 minutes, depending on where she's at on her cycle and like how into you she is. A woman who's ovulating, she's going to be ready much sooner. She'll be wetter sooner. A woman, who's in different stages, who's menstruating or whatever, or in, luteal, she may take a little bit longer. But I would say average is 30. And that includes kissing, like all the things beforehand and like going down there and all that. Like, give it time, you know? If you don't have the time, it's okay. Just go for it, right? If you got kids and you have a window and it's a 27-minute window, then do what you got to do, right? So like you got to be, you be practical with it. But I've got a couple clients and they have two, new, like children under 2. It's like they have to schedule and they have a thing and it's like they're getting to it. But if you have time, take it, because it's just going to create more potential pleasure for her.
Absolutely. One thing that we have to quickly address before it gets to the, let's say, to the deeper fun part is, in this situation, me as the man, I have my history of premature ejaculation, and I maybe have some performance worries or performance anxiety, maybe. I don't know what the correct term is. But it's just like, okay, like I'm worried and I've busted a few times too early in the past. Where does someone need to start if they want to improve their lasting game?
If you want to improve your lasting game as a man, the first thing is quit corn. The second thing is actively do Kegels every day. If you can do Kegels every day, you will strengthen your pelvic floor, and that it decreases your potential for ED. It decreases your potential for early release because you're able to actually control the valve and learn how to breathe with that movement. A lot of again, this is the main focus of my app, is that there's 3 things that kill sexual dysfunction. One is porn use, one is having a weak pelvic floor, and the third is by releasing too much. The app basically tracks and gamifies all of that. So it's a Kegel trainer, it's a quit porn app with all these different things. And the third, part of it is you have to learn how to breathe. And breathing is the fastest way to relax your central nervous system. And it's also the gateway to you being able to extend past that first peak, so to speak. So, we as men, we're fire. We get into this sexual scenario and we're turned on. And we kind of feel it. And there's a moment where you're like, okay, if I keep going, I'm going to go. And that's not good. But there needs to be this awareness of where you're at on that scale. I call it the magic 8, right? It's an 8 out of a 10. A 10 means you've busted. 1 means you're totally flaccid. An 8 is like, you're pretty turned on. You're about to go. When you hit that 7 mark, you got to start paying attention, right? Of like, okay, I need to slow down. I need to breathe a little bit. I need to have her slow down. I need to maybe pull out. I need to do something. And then from there, it's about the Kegel, the root lock, being able to control your pelvic floor, closing the valve, and then being able to breathe while that valve is closed to calm your nervous system. So again, it's like you play like you practice, right? If you're consistently, releasing 4 times to watching porn on the internet and it's every time it's 60 seconds. Your body is habituated to 60 seconds. So stop doing that. That's the first part. Second part is like, how do you actually learn how to self-pleasure for longer periods of time? And it's doing this thing called edging, which is what I teach. And if you can edge, you essentially practice for longer, right? It's like you bring yourself up to the 8, you pause, you learn how to breathe, you go down to maybe a 6, and then you slowly bring yourself up to an 8 again. And it's this crescendo. And you practice this with yourself. Right? That's the whole concept of edging, is that you learn how to self-pleasure for longer and then also partner pleasure for longer through rehabituation of your body, right? So everything that we do consistently, becomes a habit. So you have to say, well, what are my habits currently? And how can I extend the time for those habits, essentially, right? So that's what we're doing. And, in doing so, you are able to then, and again, it's not a perfect science. If it was a perfect science, everyone would be able to last 30 minutes. This is not, right? The level of arousal, level of turn on, if she listens to you when you say slow down or not, like what position she's in. So it's about finding those positions that maybe you have more control over rather than the ones you have less control over, right? It's maybe having a conversation with her beforehand, saying like, you know, when I say slow down, like I want you to stop, or if I say stop, I want you to stop, right? Because you want to continue that experience, or having the wherewithal to like move her more uh, dominantly in a slower motion so that you can gain control over it. But that moment I've been thinking a lot about this because I get a lot of guys who have this problem, and there's like a hack. If you can get through that first plateau, I'm sorry, if you can get through the first climax by doing the Kegel and breathing in the root lock and slowing down just a little bit, you kind of have this wide opening. I found is that you can go a lot longer after that first. If you can break through that first peak without releasing, there's this huge opening in front of you where I found that you can really extend the time. And that's really what it's all about. But it's about doing Kegels, but learning how to breathe through them. Because if you just do a Kegel and you're not breathing properly, you're not playing like you practice, right? You have to practice this movement in a very specific way. And so that's what part of the reason why I created the app was like, I need to have a dynamic gamified experience where guys can do Kegels and also breathe, right? And everything is tracked and there's points and all that. But that's the experience. And none of the other Kegel apps have the breathing piece in them. It's just like do a Kegel. And I'm like, okay, you can do a Kegel all day long, but if you're not doing it in the way that you need to do it when you're about to go, well, then what? Like you're not really training. You're training halfway, you know?
This is exactly also, it was also a topic when we talked together when I had the consultation with you. And I was also doing these Kegels to also like further improve stamina. And I've did the apps. I've did like probably like, I don't know, it's probably like the most known app out there, or at least the ones that you get the most ads for or see out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't do anything. Like I like you spend twice a day, like 10, 15 minutes doing these exercises. And I'm like, if I do something, I do it like very rigorously and like consistently. And I'm like,
Yeah, no, I like that about you.
this, this doesn't do like much to me. So after some time I dropped it. And what has been, for me at least, the biggest game changer, what you told me is the breathing. Because yes, you can do Kegels, you can like activate your pelvic floor, you can have great contractions. But if you're not learning how to breathe in the first place and breathing with the Kegel, like it's, yeah, like you said, like it's halfway or not even halfway there, right? You're just like trying to flex something that doesn't do maybe that much. But the breathing part for me has been such a interesting aspect because not only from a stamina standpoint, but also from if you breathe deeply as a man next to your woman, it does something to her. It gives her, like I felt at least, it gives her that feeling of safety, groundedness. I've only seen like positive things coming
Mm-hmm.
from it. Even if you go so deep or like breathe so deep, because I tend to be a shallow breather. That has been maybe the issue why all of this happens. And when I start to like really belly breathe and like, okay, like stretch it out and like push your belly against her, it does something. Very
Oh yeah.
fascinating to observe.
Yeah. Yeah. It both puts your central nervous systems in a different state in harmony and full relaxation. I always say like it's almost like you're breathing through your eggplant or your nuts, right? Like if you can breathe and you can feel at the bottom of that breath, you're almost grabbing your nuts with that breath. If you can feel it down
Mhm.
there, that's like a full, deep, deep breath, right? And you can kind of grab them and then you obviously can release it. But yeah, it's good, man. Like that's what we want. We want everyone learning how to breathe properly.
Good. I have to try that now because so far I only thought about the belly and like belly breathing and the diaphragm and whatnot. But that's an interesting one. Try to breathe there.
Yeah, you can even like
Over.
watch them in the mirror. Like if you can learn how to breathe, then like your nuts will go up and go down and go up and go down with your breathing. If it's
Mm.
if you're able to like activate that lower part of your root, your sacral area.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Like the breathing and the Kegel, this is, I would say like a mid to long term strategy potentially. This is probably not going to, if I start doing a few Kegels today, it's not going to help me last longer tonight.
No.
For somebody that wants to have a quick win, what can you share with us that helps someone to hack their way a little bit through a longer session?
That's a really good question. I would say if they're a younger guy, potentially self pleasure before. I would say like
Mm-hmm.
30 and under.
Mm-hmm.
If
How long
they're
before?
just sometime that earlier that day. I would
Okay.
say maybe like 3-4 hours.
Mm.
If they're an
Because
older
I guess
guy,
there's also like this natural, like men after they climax is a good word
yep,
to say. There's this dip, like like you could even say masculinity, to
for
some
sure.
degree.
Yeah.
So
It's
like
called the
kind of like
refractory
spacing
period.
it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a refractory period. And the refractory period is when you release, dopamine crashes and it reaches a level below its baseline. And prolactin is a hormone that's released in your body. Now, prolactin is the same prolactin. Prolactin is the same hormone that women give to babies while breastfeeding. And what happens when babies breastfeed? Like the point is to make them go to sleep, right? So I call this the sleepy puppy. So when men release, their dopamine goes down. They release prolactin. It kills their libido. It kills their drive. They don't have any desire to connect with their partner anymore. They're off doing something else with their brain, or they're sleeping if it's at night. We've all experienced it, right? So the younger you are, the the shorter your refractory period. So the younger you are, the shorter your refractory period because you have more dopamine in your body, and as soon as dopamine hits baseline again after that dip, then you can start getting into arousal. As we age, we have less dopamine, and so the refractory period's longer. So as you get into 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 40-year-old, maybe he can recover in an hour. 60-year-old might be 2 days, one day. I don't know, right? Hopefully one day. But it just takes a little bit longer. And so, yeah, like it's a drop in libido, it's a drop in arousal. It's completely satiates you. And it's like, nope, I'm good. I'm complacent. I'm full and I'm complete. That is the killer. And so a lot of guys are like, oh, how can I go again quickly? I'm like, well, you can learn how to, I mean, I was like, you really can't, but like you learn how to edge and then you don't actually release. And then, your sexual experience will be different, but you won't have to deal with that, you know? For a guy in their 30s and 40s, the answer to your question, try to, try to get into, try to get into like a super conscious state. So if people have done cold plunges or things like that, when you're basically like you're in something and you're focused on one spot or one area and you're kind of out of the zone of like what's actually happening, but you're like kind of zoned in on something. If you can figure out how to zone in on something, right? When you stare at something for a long time and everything kind of gets blurry and you're kind of just locked in,
Irritating.
just breathe, lock in on a space, and then basically just relax your way through that experience. Will it work? Who knows? But it's worth trying if you need a quick
Mm-hmm.
win. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
suggest, men to release beforehand. And I don't suggest drinking alcohol. I'm like, let's do it the pure way, right? That's like, if we're actually trying to do this, it's breathing really slow and really shallow. I'm sorry, breathing really slow and really deep through your diaphragm. Finding a spot or something that you can focus on and kind of like zoning in on that while your experience is happening. Especially if she's on top or a movement you don't have to do. Finding moves that are better for you to control, easier for you to control, right? Knowing what works well for you and what doesn't, and avoiding the ones that don't. That's what I would say. I wish I had a different answer or like some sort of
Mm-hmm.
magic bullet, but if I did, I'd be.
No, that's really helpful. That's more like on the, I mean, to degree mental. Because it's kind of like, it sounds like it's kind of like meditating into the experience
Yep.
a little bit. But what I could imagine, or what maybe is there, like when we come back maybe to like performance anxiety, when somebody's too much in their head and puts a lot of pressure onto them, which I can admit that I've been in that situation, that I was like, hey, like this is like my stage right now to perform, and it's about my performance right now. Um, and I'm sure like maybe a lot of other men think that way. What is kind of like a thought shift that you would like men to have in general when it comes to intercourse?
Women are far more forgiving of your performance than the guys that you have at the locker room. So what I'm trying to say by that is like, men, we love to just tout our performance and how we did and all all that. We're macho. If you're there with a woman and she likes you and you're leading and you're doing your best and you're trying, um, she is going to be much more forgiving of that experience than you think that you might be, or than you are of yourself. That's just the reality. If she's not, find someone else. And also, you want to work on it. You want to continue to work on it. But again, we expect ourselves to be really high performing sex leets without putting in the work, right? Like, I know you a little bit. Like, you work hard, you train hard, you've done this your whole life. Like, you put action into, you take something and someone says something and you put it into action. We don't ever train for this stuff. We just expect it that we're going to be good. Have you ever done anything in your life where you didn't train for it and you're just like, oh, I'm going to be incredible at this? No, right? So, like, give yourself some slack, right? You've been learning from all the wrong places, all the wrong moves, watching the hubs. You've never actually trained your pelvic floor. You've never actually learned how to breathe. So go learn, right? And then learning, then you can take that and put it into practice. But we just have this crazy expectation, like, I'm going to be an incredible lover. No, you're not. You have no idea what you're doing. You've never learned from anyone. And like, we just expect to be like the LeBron James of basketball. Like, it's just not how it works. So that's why I'm like doing this business, is like, let's teach people some basic fundamentals, right? And put it into practice and treat it like going to the gym and training your biceps. That's essentially, the larger mission, going full circle to back to your first question, right?
I love that a lot, because what you're saying, yeah, it makes so much sense if you're having these sobering words and like describing it that much. Because I mean, it's also something that I experience often in my line of work, because also everybody expects to like, oh yeah, I know how to work out, I know how to eat healthy, like I know all these things, but like you've never actually, like, what do the pros do? Like, what do real people do? Like, if you know how to eat healthy and how to work out, you probably wouldn't be like 10, 15 kilos overweight, like,
Right.
like, as hard as it sounds, but as men, we're probably like caught up a little bit in our ego, of thinking like, oh, I should know how this works. Right. It's like
Yeah.
obvious. Right? I've watched some videos,
Yeah.
about that.
1,000%. Yeah. Like, so that's it. You gotta practice. You gotta practice
Mhm.
and have a trainer, have a coach, have a this, have a that, and then put it into your discipline and set times where you're like, cool, I'm going to do hip mobility stuff now. Why? Because my hips are tight as hell and I can't move in the bedroom. Right. Like, yeah, you can do all the squats in the world and be 400 pounds, but like, if you can't move,
Mhm.
well, maybe you should try a different workout one day,
Mhm.
you know?
So me listening to this right now, let's say I'm a complete, I've just done the job, right? I've got my kids. I, to objectively, probably to the minimal degree possible, satisfied my wife in that degree, just enough that she's not going to leave me. What can I do next time we have a very good dynamic in the bedroom that I can pull off, that is maybe not too hardcore straight off the bat, but that will make her like mourn, essentially, right? Like, be like, wow, what was that?
I
Right.
I would highly encourage men to learn how to give oral really well. That's like, it's something that not a lot of men know how to do. It's something that is highly pleasurable to a woman if you can do it. It's kind of like you're in like the elite already if you know how to do that. Um, and the vast majority of women enjoy it. Some don't because there's been trauma in the past around it or whatever. But for the vast majority of, it's like if you can learn how to do that, now that's a bit more advanced, I would say. Um, Something less advanced, I would say there's one move that I like that I think is really um it's helpful for guys and it's also helpful for women. But essentially it's a simple position, but it's a cowgirl, not a reverse cowgirl, but a cowgirl, woman on top. But instead of the guy being horizontal like this, he's angled. He's got pillows behind his back and he's angled up. So his head
Uh,
is here, his torso
mhm,
is here, right? And she's like this, and they're both facing each other. But there's a difference in his body when he's like this versus when he's like this. So she gets to basically stimulate two areas at the same time with that angle. So it gets the bean and the inside of the kitty at the same time, and she's
mhm,
in control of that motion. And sometimes that can be a more powerful experience for her rather than him being horizontal because she doesn't get as much of that bean when you're
mhm.
horizontal. So it's just about angles. It's all about angles. You know those like sex chairs they have that
Mhm.
all different angles? You kind of want
Yeah.
to create that on your bed if you can, right? Because they made them for a reason. You know, it's like it's angled in this way for a reason. There's like a little dip at the end of it. There's like a thing here so you can get, behind. But that's a really
Mhm,
great position for double her pleasure while you can sort of like guide the experience.
mhm.
But it all depends on your situation and what your partner likes and what they don't like.
So just maybe it's like for those who are just listening and don't have the visuals, a regular cowgirl, because we can all imagine that.
Yeah.
But instead of the man, imagine a cowgirl, instead of the man being completely flat on the bed, where the most point of connection happens at the actual arousal areas,
Mm-hmm.
or you lean up as a man through pillows, through some sort of support that you're not completely upright, but slightly 45-degree,
Yeah.
roughly, angle. So whatever she does on you with the top of her kitty, with the bean, how are we going to
Mm-hmm.
call it? There's additional surface level
Yes.
to bring additional stimuli.
There you go. You said it. I like that.
I'm soaking it
Very
up.
good. No, great articulation. Yes.
Yeah,
That's it.
awesome. Let's do quickly, just like some last rapid fires here. I'll throw at you a few topics and you give me your one liner. Um, what, or in short sentences, like what you think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Biggest myth about sex men still believe.
The biggest myth about sex that men still believe is that women are turned on in the same way that men are turned on.
Mm, yeah. What is one thing most men do that instantly kills desire?
The one thing men do that instantly kills desire is ask too many questions and not lead confidently.
What is your favorite, I don't know, like resource book for men to improve their sex life?
The best book to start with is The Way of the Superior Man by David Data.
I didn't want to, I just came to my mind. This was not planned. I didn't know that. This was literally the most insane book for me when I read it the first time. Like, we all read books, and like you read a book, you learn a little bit here, you learn a little bit there, but um, that was the only book that I ever think back to. After I read it, I was like, wow, okay, this is like not a level upgrade. This is like a dimension upgrade. Um, like, if you're listening to this and you need a new book, The Way of the Superior Man, David Data, I give that to all my friends, to all my clients in that area. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Maybe I had a deficit back then in that area, but for me, it was like mind blowing. It's
Yeah,
like,
no, I mean, I still read it. I reread it all the time.
yeah, it's so good.
Great
It,
stuff.
it it literally was for me like like there were always these jokes going around like, oh, they made a movie about like how to understand women, and it, the movie lasts like, like 74 hours or something like that. Yeah, because it's difficult to understand women. That book is it. That book is the movie.
Yeah, it's good. It's
And it
very
takes you
good.
less time than that.
Yeah.
Cool. What is one message every high performing man needs to hear today about sex?
The message that men need to hear about sex, the message that high performing men need to hear about sex is that um, you're not, it's not a God given skill. It's something that must be learned, just like you've learned every other thing that you're really good at in your life. And so give it the time, attention, and, that it deserves, right? If you want to cultivate it, you got to spend time on it. And those are very different things than what you normally do, probably.
Jackson, thank you so much. Where can find someone more about you, and potentially even reach out to you for help?
Yeah. So my Instagram, so all my socials is at getnaturaljackson. I have a website that sells supplements, naturaljackson.com, and just released my app called Betterman, and that is on betterman.co. And you'll be able to download that and buy it from us directly. And yeah, it's on the App Store and Google Play, and rock and roll.
We'll make sure we link all of that in the description down below so everybody can access it directly. Jackson, thank you for your mission. Thank you for your words. Thank you for your advice. You're making this world a better place.
I appreciate it, Robin. Thanks for having me on, man. This is fun.